The royal palace of Zalara stood tall under the twin suns. Its walls shimmered in silver and blue. Inside the palace, young alien students studied the sciences of the stars, the art of leadership, and the deep logic of numbers. Among them were the twin daughters of Queen Velra, Myra and Lonnie. Both girls were bright and full of energy, but when it came to math, they always failed. The palace teachers tried everything. They showed star charts, equations, and floating numbers made of light. Still, the twins could not understand. Their grades kept falling. Every week brought another failed test. The palace halls echoed with whispers. Servants and tutors talked quietly about how the royal twins, who would one day rule, could not solve simple problems. Some said it was because they were too playful. Others said they were lazy. But none of that was true. Mira and Lonnie tried hard. They stayed up late, staring at their glowing study screens. But the numbers only confused them more. One morning, Queen Velra entered the study hall. Her tall figure cast a long shadow across the shining floor. Her eyes glowed faintly in the light, and the twins froze in fear. The teachers bowed. "How many tests have they failed now?" The queen asked in a calm but cold voice. The head tutor bowed again. "6 in a row, Your Majesty. They cannot keep up with the royal standard." The queen turned to her daughters. "You are my heirs," she said. "You must be ready to lead. How can you lead when you cannot understand simple logic?" Mira tried to speak, but her voice shook. "We are trying, Mother. We study every night." The queen looked at them for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Trying is not enough. You must succeed." She turned to her guards. "Find new tutors. I want results." The guards bowed and left. The queen walked away without another word. The twins sat in silence, tears forming in their eyes. They felt small and useless. Days passed. New tutors arrived, one after another. Some were old scholars from distant worlds. Others were machines designed for teaching logic. None of them helped. The twins failed again and again. The queen's patience grew thinner. The teachers feared for their jobs. The palace grew heavy with stress. Far below the royal chambers, on the lower floors of the palace, worked a human named Tom. He was a janitor, one of the few humans living on Zalara. Long ago, humans had come to the alien empire as engineers, helpers, and workers. Tom had taken this job after losing his wife in an accident. He needed peace, and he needed work to raise his young son, Ben. Tom's job was simple. He cleaned the study halls, repaired lights, and kept the palace neat. He never went near the royal classrooms, for that area was off limits to workers. Still, he sometimes heard stories from the other staff about the royal twins and their endless math failures. Tom had always been good with numbers. Back on Earth, he had worked as a small-town technician. He often helped Ben with homework after long workdays. So when he heard about the struggling princesses, he felt a quiet sympathy. He knew what it was like to be lost in lessons and to feel that nobody understood. One afternoon, Tom was sweeping near the grand study corridor when he heard soft crying. He stopped and listened. The sound came from a nearby classroom. He moved closer and peeked through the open doorway. Inside, the two alien princesses sat at their desks, surrounded by glowing math screens. Tears ran down Mira's cheeks. Lonnie held her head in her hands. Their teacher, an old alien scholar with long silver tendrils, spoke in a sharp tone. "You must focus," the teacher said. "How many times must I explain? The logic of orbit equations is not difficult, but it does not make sense," Myra said quietly. "Why do we divide by the sun's motion when we can just measure distance?" The teacher sighed. "Because that is how it is done. You must accept it." Lonnie looked up, her eyes full of frustration. "We try, but you keep saying the same thing." The teacher frowned. "Enough excuses. You will stay until you finish this work." The twins lowered their heads again. The teacher turned to adjust a screen. Tom stood silently at the door. His heart ached for the two young girls. He could see that they were not lazy. They were just scared and confused. When the teacher left the room to fetch another screen, Tom quietly stepped inside. "Excuse me?" he said softly. The twins looked up, startled. They recognized him. The janitor, human. Someone who cleaned floors and fixed lights. "You are not supposed to be here," Mira said, wiping her tears. "I know," Tom said, smiling kindly. "I just heard you crying." I could not walk away. I used to help my son with math. "Maybe I can try to explain it a different way." Lonnie frowned. "You teach math? But you are a janitor." Tom nodded. "Yes, I am. But I also know what it feels like to be stuck. Sometimes you just need to look at things in a simple way." The twins looked at each other. They were curious. Nobody had ever talked to them like that. Everyone else treated them like failures or spoiled royal children. Tom's voice was calm and patient. "All right," Mira said. "Show us." Tom picked up a few small metal pieces from the table. He lined them up. "These are planets," he said. "Now you see this big one in the middle? That is your sun. Let's say it moves like this." He moved the piece slowly. "Now, instead of thinking about motion with long equations, let's count how many turns it takes for each small planet to go around it. That is orbit time. You can use simple numbers to understand that before you use big ones." The twins leaned forward. They watched closely. Tom spoke slowly and clearly. He did not use fancy terms or glowing screens. He used the pieces and his hands. The numbers suddenly made sense. So if the small planet takes 2 turns for every 1 turn of the big one, that means it moves faster, Tom said. "You can see it, right?" "Yes," Mira said. "It is clear now?" Lonnie smiled. "I get it. It is just comparing motion, not memorizing formulas." Tom nodded. "Exactly. Math is not about fear. It is about patterns. You only need to see the pattern, and then you can trust it." The twins laughed with relief. They understood for the first time. Tom looked happy too. But then the door opened and the teacher returned. "What is going on here?" The teacher said. His voice was sharp. "You human. You are not allowed here." Tom stepped back. "I am sorry. I did not mean harm. I was only trying to help." The teacher glared at him. "Leave at once. The Queen will hear of this." Tom bowed and left quickly. The twins tried to defend him. "He helped us understand," Mira said. The teacher frowned. "Nonsense. You will forget this nonsense and continue with your proper studies." But the twins did not forget. That night, they sat together in their room. They used small stones to copy Tom's method. They laughed while solving the same problems that had once made them cry. They understood every step. Down below, in his small worker's room, Tom sat with his son Ben. He told him about the princesses and how he had tried to help. Ben smiled. "Did they learn?" Tom nodded. "Yes, I think they did. But I might be in trouble for it." Ben laughed. "You always say helping is never trouble." Tom smiled. "That is true." The next morning, when the twins came for class, they finished every question perfectly. The teacher could not believe it. The palace staff started whispering again, but this time with surprise. Word spread that the royal twins had suddenly improved overnight. The Queen heard about it and grew suspicious. How can they go from failure to success in one night? She asked her advisor. "Find out what changed." The guards began asking around. It did not take long before someone mentioned the human janitor who had entered the study room. The Queen's expression turned cold. She ordered that the human be brought before her. Tom was called from his cleaning duty and led to the grand throne room. The huge doors opened and he stepped inside, bowing low. The Queen sat high on her crystal seat, her twin daughters beside her. Mira and Lonnie looked nervous. "So," the Queen said, "you are the human who thinks he can teach royal blood." Tom spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, I did not mean to offend. I only saw your daughters in distress and offered help. They understood my simple way. I am sorry if I broke any rule." The Queen studied him silently. The twins stepped forward. "Mother, he helped us," Mira said. "We finally understand the lessons." Yes, Lonnie added. He showed us with real objects, not only glowing screens. The queen looked at her daughters. She could see truth in their eyes. She looked back at Tom. You are a janitor, she said. Yet you taught what my best scholars could not.
Oh.
Tom bowed again. Sometimes understanding comes from a simple path, not a high one. For a long moment, the hall was silent. Then, for the first time, the queen smiled faintly. We shall see if your teaching truly lasts. Continue your work, human, but do not leave your post again without permission. Tom nodded. Yes, your majesty. He left the hall quietly. The twins smiled at each other. They knew something special had begun. That night, under the twin moons of Zalara, 2 young alien princesses studied math not with fear, but with joy. And somewhere deep in the palace, a humble human janitor felt proud, not for himself, but for the smiles he had helped bring back. The next few days in the palace were filled with quiet talk about the strange event. Everyone wondered how the royal twins, who had failed every math test before, could suddenly understand every lesson. Some believed it was luck. Others whispered that maybe the human janitor had used tricks, but no one could deny that something had changed in the royal classroom. Mira and Lonnie sat eagerly waiting for the next lesson. The teacher entered and looked at them with a doubtful expression. He placed glowing screens before them and said, "Let us see if yesterday was only luck. Solve these." The twins looked at the questions. They smiled, remembering Tom's words. They did not panic. They picked up small objects from the table and started counting, comparing, and explaining the logic to each other. Within minutes, they solved the first problem. Then another. Then another. The teacher watched with wide eyes. "How did you do that?" he asked. Mira said, "We used the human way." "The what?" "The human way," Lonnie repeated proudly. "Simple thinking. Real things. Not just floating numbers." The teacher did not understand. He reported everything to the queen. When Queen Velra heard the report, she was silent for a long time. She remembered how Tom had spoken in the throne room. His calm voice still echoed in her mind. Sometimes understanding comes from a simple path, not a high one. She wanted to test this for herself. That evening, she sent a message for Tom to come to the royal study hall. Tom came nervous but respectful. He bowed deeply when he saw the queen and her daughters waiting inside. "Human," the queen said, "my daughters claim that your way of teaching helped them learn. Show me how you did it." Tom nodded. He looked around the room. There were glowing boards, crystal chairs, and shelves full of learning crystals, but nothing that looked useful for simple examples. He quietly picked up a few round stones from a decorative bowl and placed them on the table. "May I?" he asked. The queen nodded. Tom smiled and looked at the twins. "Let us show your mother what we learned together." He placed 3 stones in one row and 2 in another. "When we talk about numbers, we first see them. 3 and 2 make 5. It is not about remembering symbols. It is about seeing how things fit together." Mira nodded eagerly. "That is how we understand it now," Tom continued. "In space travel, math is used for orbits. But instead of memorizing the formula, we can use simple steps. First, we see one circle moving around another. We count the turns. We compare them. Then we build the formula. That way, the meaning is clear," Lonnie added. "It makes learning fun, Mother." "It is like a game." Gwynvelra watched closely. She had never seen her daughters so confident. The human's method looked strange, but effective. The queen could see that his teaching was not magic. It was patience and creativity. "You may go," the queen said after a while. "I have seen enough." Tom bowed and left. The twins hugged each other with excitement. They knew their mother had been impressed. Later that night, in her private chamber, Queen Velra called her advisor. "The human understands something our scholars have forgotten," she said. "He teaches with heart." The advisor frowned. "He is a janitor, Your Majesty. Teaching is not his place." The queen looked at him sharply. "Wisdom has no place. It only needs a mind that listens." The next morning, a royal message arrived at Tom's small living quarters. The guard handed him a sealed letter. Tom opened it carefully. Inside, written in elegant silver letters, was a command from the queen herself. "Human Tom," it said. "You are to serve as private tutor to my daughters in the study of mathematics. Your duties as janitor are hereby transferred to another. You will report to the royal classroom at dawn." Tom could hardly believe his eyes. He read the message again. His son Ben looked up at him and smiled. "So you are a teacher now, Dad?" Tom laughed softly. "It seems so. I never thought sweeping floors would lead to this." At dawn, Tom entered the royal study hall as instructed. The guards saluted him. The queen was not present, but the royal twins waited eagerly. They greeted him with big smiles. "We knew you would come," Mira said. Tom smiled back. "Then let us begin." From that day, the lessons changed. Tom did not use glowing screens or holographic equations. He used everyday things. He made math into stories. He showed how numbers were everywhere, even in the rhythm of the palace fountains or the steps between the stars. The twins learned faster than ever before. They began to enjoy every subject. Word of this strange teaching method spread through the palace. Many found it amusing that a human janitor was now teaching royal blood. Some were proud of it. Others were jealous. The old alien teachers whispered among themselves, "If a human can teach better than us, what does that say about our years of study?" One said bitterly. Another replied, "He will not last long. The queen will tire of him soon." But the opposite happened. The queen noticed how her daughters grew more confident. They started solving not only math problems, but also puzzles of science and engineering. Their curiosity bloomed. She could see that they were becoming wiser and happier. One afternoon, Queen Velra visited the study hall without warning. Tom was showing the twins how to calculate distance by pacing across the room. The queen stood quietly at the doorway, listening. "If each step is one measure," Tom said, "and you take 10 steps, how far have you gone?" 10 measures, Lonnie said. "And if I take 5 steps back?" "Then you have 5 remaining," Myra said quickly. Tom smiled. "Good, you see. Numbers are just directions of movement. Forward or backward. Positive or negative. That is all." Queen smiled slightly. She had never heard math explained that way. When Tom noticed her, he bowed respectfully. "Continue," she said. Tom finished the lesson. The twins bowed to their mother proudly. "You both learn well," the queen said. "Your tutor has done well too." Tom said humbly, "Your Majesty, your daughters are bright. They only needed to see the truth in numbers instead of fear." After the queen left, the twins whispered happily. "She smiled," Mira said. "She never smiles after lessons." Days turned into weeks. Under Tom's care, the royal twins improved in every subject. The queen grew fond of watching their progress. She invited scholars from other worlds to observe this human method. Some laughed at it, calling it childish. Others were amazed. One alien scholar from the Academy of Logic said, "Humans are strange. They use feeling to explain reason, yet somehow it works." The queen nodded. "It works because it connects the mind and the heart." Meanwhile, Tom's son Ben was given permission to visit the palace during off hours. The twins liked him at once. They studied together, sharing jokes and stories. Mira and Lonnie were curious about Earth. They asked many questions about human life, human games. In human schools, Ben told them stories about Earth forests, oceans. In small schools where teachers used chalk instead of floating light screens, the twins were fascinated. "Your world sounds peaceful," Mira said. Tom smiled. "It has its troubles, but humans learn by helping one another. That is what keeps us strong." One evening, as the twin sun set over Zalara, Tom sat in the palace garden with his son. The air was cool, and soft blue lights floated among the trees. Ben asked, "Do you think the queen trusts you now?" Tom thought for a moment. "She trusts results. Trust takes time, but I think she sees that humans can bring good things." He looked up at the glowing sky and added, "Maybe this is how peace between worlds begins. One small lesson at a time." At that same moment, deep inside the palace, the queen spoke to her advisors. "This human has changed my daughters," she said. "Their confidence is stronger than before. They no longer fear failure. I see hope in them. Perhaps there is more to humans than I once believed." One advisor disagreed. "We must be careful, Your Majesty. Humans learn fast, but they also change things too quickly. Their ideas can upset order." Queen looked at him sternly. "Sometimes order needs to be changed if it keeps minds trapped." From that day forward, Tom's name was spoken with respect in the royal palace. Other students began asking to learn the human way. The palace scholars who once mocked him now tried to study his methods secretly. Still, Tom stayed humble. He never acted proud. He said again and again, "I only helped them see what was already inside them." The Queen began to understand something new. Leadership was not about being above others. It was about learning from them, even from those who seemed small. One morning, during a royal meeting, she looked out the window toward the study gardens. She saw her daughters laughing with Tom and Ben. A rare smile touched her face. "Perhaps," she whispered, "this human is teaching more than math." She was right. The lessons had gone beyond numbers. Tom was showing her daughters patience, kindness, and the strength that came from understanding others. That night, when the palace lights dimmed, the Queen called for her daughters. "Tell me what your human teacher taught you today," she said. Lonnie said. "He taught us that every big problem is made of small ones," Almira added. "And if you fix the small ones, the big one disappears." The Queen nodded slowly. A simple truth, but a powerful one. She looked out the window at the stars. Perhaps the human way is not small at all. Perhaps it is what we needed all along. As the night deepened, the two twin moons rose over the silver palace. The quiet hum of the city filled the air. In the garden below, Tom and Ben looked up at the same sky. The stars seemed brighter than before. The palace was quieter than usual that morning. The twin suns rose over the crystalline towers, casting long reflections on the shining floors. Myra and Lonnie were already awake. They had been practicing the lessons that Tom had taught them. They moved small stones across the study table, counting, arranging, and understanding every number in a new way. Tom entered the royal study hall, carrying a small bag of coins, pebbles, and pieces of paper. The twins greeted him enthusiastically. "Good morning, Tom," Lonnie said. "Morning," Mira added. Tom smiled. "I have something new for you today. Are you ready for a challenge?" The twins leaned forward. They were eager to see what he had prepared. This morning, Tom began, "We will learn how to use numbers in real life. Not just in books, but everywhere around us. Let us start with patterns." He arranged coins in a circle. "See this circle? This is like a star system. Each coin moves around the center in a pattern. If I move one coin forward 2 spaces and another 3 spaces, can you predict where they will meet?" Mira and Lonnie exchanged glances. They had never tried something like this. But they remembered the lessons. They counted carefully, using small steps and patience. Soon they both pointed to the correct coin. Tom nodded. "Exactly. You understood the pattern. That is how math works in the universe. It is not scary. It is just a way to see what will happen next." The twins smiled with pride. For the first time, they did not fear the numbers. They saw them as tools, not monsters. Word of their progress had reached the other royal students. Some were jealous. Others were curious. A few brave ones came to the study hall to watch. The twins welcomed them. Tom explained the lessons to everyone patiently, using simple objects and real-life examples. Soon, even the skeptical students began to understand. But not everyone was happy. The old alien teachers whispered among themselves. They could not believe that a human janitor was teaching better than they ever had. Some complained to the Queen. "This is inappropriate," one said. "The royal twins are learning, yes, but they are abandoning proper study. A human cannot guide them in advanced science. It is dangerous." The Queen listened silently. She remembered her first meeting with Tom. She thought about how her daughters had grown. Their confidence was higher than ever. Their understanding had deepened. Perhaps she realized there was more to teaching than tradition. The next day, the queen decided to test the twins further. She sent them to the Palace Academy, where the most advanced alien teachers challenged students with complicated problems. Myra and Lonnie walked into the hall nervously. The other students laughed quietly. They knew the twins had struggled before. The head teacher handed them a set of star equations. "Solve these," he said. Myra and Lonnie glanced at each other. Their hearts raced. But then they remembered Tom's lessons. They began with small steps, breaking the problems into pieces. They used objects on the table to visualize the stars, the planets, and their paths. Slowly, carefully, they wrote the answers. Minutes passed. The hall was silent. The other students watched in disbelief. When the twins finished, the head teacher examined their work. He could not believe it. Every answer was correct. The hall erupted in whispers. How did they do it? Some asked. They must have studied all night. Others said. The twins smiled at each other. They knew it was not just study. It was Tom's way of learning that had guided them. When the queen arrived to see the results, she was impressed. "They succeeded," she said. "All thanks to guidance and patience. Sometimes, wisdom comes from unexpected places." After the test, the twins returned to Tom. "We did it," Mira exclaimed. "Yes," Lonnie added. "We really did it." Tom smiled. "Yes, but remember, success is not just about finishing the test. It is about understanding what you do. That is what lasts forever." The twins nodded. They understood. Tom had not only taught them math, but also patience, confidence, and thinking in steps. One afternoon, as the twins practiced, an emergency alert sounded across the palace. The sensors detected a strange object approaching from a nearby star system. The palace advisors rushed to the queen. "It is unknown," one said. "We do not know if it is hostile or friendly." The queen called Mira and Lonnie to her side. "You have learned a lot, but now you must see the importance of using knowledge wisely," she said. Tom was summoned as well. He entered the chamber quietly, carrying his usual bag of simple teaching tools. "This is serious," the queen said. "We need to calculate the trajectory of the approaching object." "Can you help?" Tom nodded. "We can try." Step by step. In the observation hall, the twins saw the object for the first time. It was a strange spacecraft, unlike anything in Zalara. Its design was angular, glowing faintly. Sensors indicated that it was moving fast. First, Tom said, "Let us estimate its distance. Use the grids on the floor and the sensors to measure the angles. Then we can predict where it will go." Myra and Lonnie worked together. They applied the lessons Tom had taught. They measured, counted, and visualized the path. Slowly, they predicted the object's trajectory. Tom checked their work. "Good. Now, we need to calculate speed. Remember, speed is distance divided by time. You already know how to do this." The twins quickly calculated. Their answers matched the sensor readings. Tom smiled. "Excellent. Now we can warn the palace if the object comes too close." The queen watched silently. She could not believe her eyes. Her daughters, who once could not solve simple math, were now helping to protect the palace. The strange spacecraft came closer. The sensors detected no weapons. It hovered near the outer gates. A voice spoke through the palace communication system. It was calm and friendly. "Greetings, Zalara. We are explorers from the system Viren. We come in peace. We wish to learn and share knowledge." The queen exhaled with relief. "It is a peaceful ship. Tom, Mira, Lonnie, you did well. Your calculations were accurate. You kept the palace safe." The twins beamed. For the first time, they saw the real power of knowledge. Math was no longer just numbers. It could protect, plan, and solve real problems. Word of their achievements spread across Zalara. Other worlds heard that the royal twins, guided by a human janitor, had calculated the approach of an unknown spacecraft correctly. Many were amazed. Some could not believe it. The palace scholars were silent. They had doubted Tom and the twins. But now their method had saved the palace from fear and uncertainty. In the garden that evening, Tom sat with Mira, Lonnie, and Ben. The sky was calm, stars shining over the silver towers. "You see," Tom said, "math is not just numbers in a book. It is a way to understand the world. And the world is full of surprises." Myra nodded. "We understand that now. We can do things we never thought we could." Lonnie smiled. "And it is fun, too. Learning with you is never scary." "I like learning with you all." Tom felt a quiet pride. He had not only taught the twins math, but he had shown them confidence, courage, and the joy of discovery. The Queen, watching from her balcony, felt something she had never felt before. She realized that intelligence was not about high status, glowing screens, or complicated symbols. It was about understanding, patience, and care. The human janitor had brought this truth to her daughters. As night fell, the palace was calm. Mira and Lonnie studied happily. Tom watched with a gentle smile, and Ben played with small star maps. The lessons of the day had shown them that no challenge was too big. If approached carefully and with understanding, little did they know, the days ahead would bring even greater challenges. Tom's teaching would be tested in ways none of them could imagine. But for now, they celebrated a victory that was more than numbers. It was the victory of learning, confidence, human ingenuity. And somewhere deep inside the palace, Queen whispered to herself, "Perhaps humans have more to teach us than we ever knew." The next morning, the palace was filled with excitement and tension. News of the twins' accurate calculations about the approaching spacecraft had spread quickly. Scholars, guards, and students gathered in the grand hall to witness what the human janitor, Tom, and the royal twins could accomplish next. The Queen herself watched silently from her throne. Mira and Lonnie stood near the large observation windows, their hands gripping the edge of the polished crystal. Their minds were alert, their eyes sharp. For the first time, they understood that math was not just a subject, but a tool for understanding the universe. Tom entered the hall, carrying his bag of simple teaching tools. He had a calm presence that seemed to settle everyone's nerves. Even the skeptical scholars and teachers quieted when he spoke. "Today," Tom said, "we will solve a challenge that is bigger than any problem we have faced so far. We will see how numbers, logic, and patience can work together to solve something real." He placed several small stones and coins on a large table. "These represent starships, planets, and paths. We will calculate trajectories, time, and distance. We will use simple steps, one at a time. Nothing is impossible if we focus and understand." Myra and Lonnie leaned forward. Their hearts raced with anticipation. The palace scholars whispered among themselves. Some were doubtful. Others were curious to see how a human janitor could handle such advanced challenges. The Queen spoke softly. "Remember, my daughters, the universe is full of patterns. Every action has a reaction. Use what you have learned carefully." Tom nodded. "Exactly. Observe first. Do not rush. Step by step, we will solve this together." The first challenge was a simulated star navigation problem. A fleet of alien ships had to travel through an asteroid field without collision. The simulations on the palace screens were complex. Numbers floated in the air. Equations blinked in multiple colors. The twins hesitated at first. The patterns seemed too complicated. But Tom reminded them, "Break it down. One asteroid at a time. One ship at a time. You already know how to do this." Mira took a deep breath. She focused on the first ship. She used coins to represent the asteroids, arranging them in rows and circles. Lonnie worked on the second ship. Together, they visualized the movements, predicting the paths and collisions. Tom observed quietly. "Excellent. Now check each path. Make sure no ship crosses another." Minutes passed. The twins counted, moved pieces, and recalculated. Their hands moved steadily, and their minds worked in harmony. The palace scholars began to murmur. They could not believe the twins were solving a problem that had baffled their most advanced computers. Finally, Mira and Lonnie finished. Tom checked their work carefully. Perfect! Every ship will pass safely. The queen rose from her throne, her eyes wide with amazement. You did it, she said softly. Both of you. You solved it, the twins beamed. They had never felt so proud. It was not about passing a test or winning praise. It was about understanding, thinking, and working together. The next challenge was even harder. A neighboring star system had sent a message requesting help. A comet was approaching a populated planet, and the aliens needed to calculate its trajectory to prevent disaster. The problem required both speed and accuracy. Tom set up the problem for the twins using coins, small stones, and strips of paper. We can solve this. Break it into small pieces. Find patterns. Predict the comet's path. Then check again, one step at a time. Myra and Lonnie worked with calm focus. They applied the lessons Tom had taught them. First, they measured distances using the coins and strips. Then they calculated speed using repeated steps and careful observation. Finally, they predicted the comet's path. Tom checked their calculations. Correct. The comet will miss the populated areas safely. The queen stood silently, her hands folded. Your method is simple, she said, but it works. Perhaps simplicity is the key to wisdom. News of their achievement spread quickly across Zalera. Other scholars began to adopt the human teaching method. The royal twins were praised not only for their intelligence, but also for their ability to think clearly, creatively, and bravely under pressure. One afternoon, as the twins were practicing a new math problem, a group of alien students approached. They had been struggling with the palace curriculum. Can you teach us? One asked. Shyly, Myra and Lonnie looked at each other. Yes, Mira said. We will show you the human way. It makes numbers easier and learning fun. Very good. Teaching others will make you even stronger. Explaining helps you understand better yourself. The twins guided the other students patiently. They used small stones, coins, and strips of paper to demonstrate patterns, speed, and distance. Soon, the new students began to understand. Their faces lit up with excitement. Learning was no longer a source of fear. The queen watched this quietly from a distance. She realized that the human janitor had done more than teach her daughters. He had taught them to inspire others, to spread knowledge, and to help those in need. This was a skill far greater than any equation or formula. One day, a special visitor arrived. It was an ambassador from another planet, a scholar known for testing intelligence across the galaxy. The ambassador had heard of the twins and wanted to see their abilities for himself. The queen invited him to observe a lesson. Tom, Mira, and Lonnie prepared a problem that required logic, reasoning, and teamwork. The ambassador watched silently, his eyes narrowing in thought. The twins began to solve the problem, applying the steps Tom had taught them. They moved carefully, discussed strategies, and checked each other's work. Within minutes, they completed the challenge. The ambassador's eyes widened. Incredible, he said. These young aliens, guided by a human, have solved a problem that many experienced scholars could not. Your teaching is extraordinary, Tom bowed. Thank you, but they did the work themselves. I only guided them, the ambassador smiled. Guidance is often more important than direct knowledge. You have created thinkers, not just students. The queen felt a deep sense of pride. Mira and Lonnie had grown far beyond her expectations. They were no longer just royal children struggling with math. They were capable, confident, and ready to face challenges of any kind. That evening, the palace was quiet. Mira and Lonnie sat with Tom in the garden. The twin moons rose over the crystalline towers, casting soft light on the stone paths. Tom, Mira said softly, we feel like we can do anything now. You showed us how to think, not just memorize. Tom smiled. That is the key. Understanding is stronger than memory. Patterns, patience, and observation will guide you anywhere, Lonnie added. We want to help others too, like you helped us. Tom nodded. That is the best part. Knowledge grows when shared. You are learning not just for yourselves, but for everyone. Meanwhile, the queen observed from her balcony. She realized that the palace had changed. The children's laughter, curiosity, and courage had spread a new energy throughout the halls. Even the most skeptical scholars had begun to question their old ways and adopt the human method. The palace had become a place of learning, not fear. Success was no longer measured by glowing screens or complex formulas. It was measured by understanding, creativity, and teamwork. But the queen knew that the greatest test was yet to come. The twins' abilities had been proven in small and medium challenges. Soon they would face real danger, problems that would test not only their knowledge, but their courage, decision-making, and wisdom. As night fell, Tom looked at the stars with his son Ben. "The twins are ready for more," he said. "They have learned what no book can teach. They have learned how to think." Ben nodded. "Do you think the queen knows how special this is?" Tom smiled. "She will. And soon, everyone will. Humans may seem small, but they can bring great changes." The palace lights shimmered under the twin moons. Inside the walls, the royal twins studied, laughed, and prepared for the challenges ahead. The lessons of patience, creativity, and simple understanding had given them confidence. They had faced the first real test of their knowledge and passed with flying colors. Yet, the universe was vast and unpredictable. The twins, guided by the human janitor, had grown stronger, but the days ahead would require even greater courage. They would face decisions that could affect not only their lives, but the future of Zalara. For now, however, they celebrated their success quietly, learning to trust their minds and hearts. They understood that knowledge was power, but wisdom was understanding. And this understanding, taught by a humble human, would guide them through whatever challenges the stars would bring. The day of celebration had arrived on Valoria, and the royal palace was buzzing with excitement. Mira and Lyra were no longer the twins who struggled with math. Their faces were bright with confidence, and their hearts were full of gratitude. Tom, the human janitor, stood quietly near the palace hall, unsure of why all the attention was on him. He had never imagined that helping the twins understand numbers could lead to such a day. The queen summoned him to the main throne room. Her expression was gentle, yet full of authority. "Tom," she said, "your work with my daughters has been remarkable. Your patience and guidance have done what even the best tutors could not. I would like to offer you a permanent role at the palace as the royal learning advisor." Tom blinked, feeling a mixture of shock and honor. He was just a janitor, someone who had spent his life cleaning halls and fixing broken tools. He never expected to be recognized by an alien queen, let alone be offered a position to teach in the royal court. He looked at the twins. Mira's eyes sparkled with excitement, and Lyra's lips curled into a shy smile. Both of them nodded encouragingly. I don't know if I am worthy," Tom said quietly, bowing his head. "I just wanted to help them understand." "That is all." Queen stepped closer. "That is exactly why you are worthy," she said. "A true teacher does not seek power or fame. A true teacher seeks to help others learn and grow. That is the kind of wisdom our people need." Tom took a deep breath and looked around the hall. He saw nobles, teachers, and students all watching him. He realized that in this moment, his life had changed forever. He straightened his back and nodded. "I will do my best," he said. The queen smiled. "Very well. Today, you will not only be honored, but you will also begin your new duties. The Academy will open a special program where all students can learn from your methods." Myra and Lyra could hardly contain their joy. They ran forward and hugged Tom at the same time. "Thank you, Tom," Myra said. "We would never have understood math without you. We want to keep learning more," Lyra added. "Not just math, but everything you know about thinking and solving problems." Tom laughed softly. "Well, I can try. But the best lessons come when you are willing to think for yourself. I can guide you, but you have to do the learning." The queen clapped her hands, and servants began arranging the room for a small ceremony. Tom was presented with a simple but elegant robe, signifying his new role. For someone who had spent most of his life sweeping floors, this was a moment beyond imagination. The twins helped him adjust the robe, their small hands brushing lightly over the fabric. Tom felt a warm sense of pride. Once the ceremony ended, the Queen spoke to the gathered students. From today onward, our learning will change. Knowledge is not about memorizing or performing for tests. Knowledge is about understanding, exploring, and growing. Tom has shown us that even the simplest methods, guided by patience and care, can achieve what is impossible when we focus only on rules and tradition. Students whispered among themselves, some nodding, others wide-eyed. The idea of learning from a human janitor seemed unusual at first, but when they saw the twins' success, they realized that the method worked. Later that day, Tom walked through the academy with Mira and Lyra by his side. They were eager to show him how they had begun applying his lessons in their own studies. Mira demonstrated her solution to a geometry problem using small crystals from the palace gardens. Lyra explained how she counted energy flows in a physics exercise using simple drawings. Tom smiled. You two have learned well. The key is understanding the idea behind the numbers, not just the numbers themselves. As they walked, the twins chatted excitedly about the new program. They wanted all the students to experience the same joy of learning they had found with Tom. We want everyone to feel confident like we do now, Mira said. And you'll teach them, right? Lyra asked eagerly. Tom nodded slowly. I will. But remember, my job is to guide. The real work will come from you all thinking and trying. Learning is like planting a garden. I can show you how to plant seeds, but you must water them, watch them grow, and learn from each stage. The twins smiled, understanding his words. They felt a new sense of responsibility, not just to themselves, but to their friends and fellow students. Tom's teaching had given them confidence, and now they wanted to share it. The next morning, the academy opened its doors to the new program. Students gathered in the classrooms, curious to see how learning from a human would work. Tom began with simple exercises, using everyday objects around the room to explain concepts. Some students were skeptical at first, but as they worked with him, their faces lit up with understanding. Laughter and discussion filled the halls, replacing the tense silence that had once dominated the classrooms. Even the older tutors began to notice a change. They saw that the students were not only learning faster, but also enjoying the process. Some tutors approached Tom, asking if they could observe and even learn his methods. Tom welcomed them, explaining that teaching was not a competition, but a shared effort to help others grow. Meanwhile, the Queen watched from her balcony. She felt proud of her daughters, proud of Tom, and proud of the academy. Her people were beginning to see that knowledge and wisdom were not just the domain of the powerful or the highly trained. Sometimes it was the humble heart and clear mind that could bring the greatest change. In the evenings, Tom continued his private lessons with Mira and Lyra. They explored advanced topics, but always through simple, understandable steps. He encouraged them to ask questions, to make mistakes, and to discover solutions on their own. The twins began to develop their own creative ways of thinking, combining their alien intuition with human logic. One day, while they were solving a complex problem about energy distribution on Valoria, Mira paused and looked at Tom. We never thought we could understand this, but now it feels possible. You made us believe in ourselves. Tom smiled warmly. That is the most important part. Believing in yourself is the start of all learning. Everything else comes from practice and curiosity. Lyra added, we want to help others feel that too. We want to teach our friends what you taught us. Tom placed his hand gently on her shoulder. Then you already are teaching. Every time you explain something to someone else, you spread the knowledge further. That is how change begins. News of the successful program spread beyond the academy. Students from nearby planets traveled to Valoria to learn from Tom and the twins. They brought their own challenges, questions, and ideas. Tom adapted his teaching to meet their needs. Always keeping it simple and practical, the twins became ambassadors of learning. They held small workshops, shared creative problem-solving techniques, and encouraged others to explore new ways of thinking. Their success inspired other royal children and students across Valoria to approach learning with curiosity instead of fear. One evening, as the sun set over the shimmering palace, The queen invited Tom to walk with her in the palace gardens. "I have watched you change not only my daughters, but also the academy and the hearts of my people," she said. "Your humility and wisdom have brought something very rare, a new way of thinking that will last for generations." Tom looked at the horizon, thinking about his journey. He had arrived on Valoria as a simple janitor, tasked with cleaning halls. He had never imagined that his quiet, patient approach could make such a difference. "I just wanted to help them learn," he said softly. "I never expected all of this." The queen smiled. "And that is why your gift is so powerful. True gifts are never about recognition. They are about how they touch others and help them grow." The twins ran up to them, laughing and carrying small plants they had grown as part of their learning exercises. Mira handed one to Tom. "This is for you," she said. "It reminds us of how you helped us grow." Tom accepted the plant, feeling a deep warmth in his heart. He realized that teaching was like nurturing a garden. The seeds of knowledge, planted with patience and care, would continue to grow far beyond what he could see. In the following months, Valoria continued to thrive as a center of learning. Tom's methods were taught to all the tutors who adopted his simple and patient approach. Mira and Lyra excelled in all subjects, not just math. They continued to explore new ideas and challenge themselves. And the academy became a place where learning was joyful, creative, and accessible to all. The human janitor had shown an alien world that wisdom was not defined by titles or species. It was defined by the heart, patience, and the courage to guide others with care. His story spread across Valoria, reminding everyone that sometimes the humblest hands could change the world in the most extraordinary ways. And so, Tom's life was transformed, not by power or wealth, but by the simple act of helping two young girls understand numbers. The twins grew into wise and creative leaders, the academy flourished, and Valoria shone as a planet where learning and kindness thrived. Tom often walked the halls with a quiet smile, knowing that the seeds he planted would continue to grow for generations.